What's up again, YouTube? I figured I would have a chill video to discuss my career, my full-time job. I've had a couple of people ask me to vlog my day at work or to talk about what I do for a living. So obviously I do not do YouTube or blogging full-time. Those are my side hustles at the moment. So I work a standard 9-to-5 corporate job. And unfortunately, I'm not able to vlog at work. I was able to get a few clips of what I do, but I figured the next best thing I could do is kind of talk about what I did and how I got started in it, and share some cool photos if you're into that type of thing, and just what I do for a living on a day-to-day basis. I'm not going to say where I work, mostly because I don't want the company that I work for to be associated with my YouTube channel, because that's not how it works. Like, this has nothing to do with where I work, and I just don't feel comfortable mentioning the name. So if you know where I work, if you're a friend of mine or whatever, please do not comment that down below. My official position title is research fellow, but really I am a microbiologist. So I have been at my current position for a little bit over a year, and I will talk more about the whole process of starting there as well, just if you are interested in becoming a microbiologist or doing research. So my focus is mostly on environmental research, but also public health. I figured I would rewind a bit and share with you guys how I got started in science and research in general. So that goes back to my undergrad. I went straight through college out of high school. I graduated from high school in 2011 and then started college in 2011 as well at Georgia State University, and I majored in biology, which automatically made my minor chemistry. My initial plan was to become a dentist or an orthodontist. So for about the first 3 years, that is what my plan was. Of course, the first couple of years I took like the elective type courses, and then I started getting more into the core classes. And by my third year, I realized that I no longer wanted to be a orthodontist or a dentist. I had even volunteered at dentist offices. I had volunteered at another local dental office that was for like low income patients and things of that nature, but I ultimately realized that it wasn't what I truly wanted, and I was doing it for the wrong things, and just a multitude of other reasons that I just didn't want to continue on that route. But I was kind of at this crossroads because I was a junior in college already with 3 years under my belt of a biology degree, and I didn't want to change that. At that point, my junior year of undergrad is when I did realize that ultimately I would like to be an entrepreneur. I would like to work for myself. I want to blog, things like that. So I really started listening to like a lot of Tony Robbins and Gary Vee and other inspirational people. But of course, I did stay in school, and I didn't want to just drop out or anything. So I did some research on what other jobs I could do. And of course, I have always cared about the environment, so I was looking into environmental type jobs of how I could help. And the main thing that kept coming up was research, so scientific research. And my senior year of undergrad, I emailed multiple professors at Georgia State University asking around if I could work in their lab, if they have any open spots or anything. And working in a lab during your undergrad does not mean you are paid. That is just research, and you can get research credit for it, but it is not a paid position or anything. So I actually only got one email back from a professor, and that is whose lab I started working in, and he was an environmental microbiologist. And so when I first started, like during my undergrad, I was learning a lot of things. I was very new to research. I had never had any experience with hands-on research. So it was a microbiology lab, and I was learning how to properly work with aseptic technique, how to pipette, like very basic things, how to plate, how to inoculate, things like that. So the first year of research, I was basically assisting other students, master's students and PhD students. And then the opportunity was brought up of me getting my master's. And I say opportunity because it was basically, I knew I would get in. And the program is that you start your master's, you also do research, so you have your own project, and then you teach a lab and your tuition is paid for. And so by my senior year, I was honestly pretty burnt out from school. I am not the smartest person. I am very studious though, but I was definitely burnt out. Biology is a pretty hard degree, and just the fact that, going straight for right out of high school, I was fairly burnt out. But then I went straight into my master's because of that opportunity. So again, for graduate school, I majored in biology. My concentration was in applied and environmental microbiology, and I continued to do research in the same lab. However, during grad school, I had my own project. So I'm not going to go into the depths of it. I actually have a full paper that is published, which I'll link down below. My master's thesis was published. So the project that I worked on involved honeybees. So there is a fungus that affects honeybees. If you don't know, honeybees are very important, and they're kind of declining, which is a huge problem for our crops and just a lot of things in general. So I was doing research on a fungus known as Ascosphaera apis, or chalk brood, and this would affect the larvae of honeybees. And for my project, I wanted to test out various essential oils against this fungus to see if it would inhibit the growth. And that was my life for about a year and a half. So I started my master's in 2015 and finished my master's in 2016. So it was about a year and a half or so that I finished. And I actually graduated early because I was pushing to finish early because I was so burnt out at this point. Not that any of this matters, I just wanted to explain my story. But that's what I did research on. I had to submit my paper. During that time, I was teaching a introductory microbiology lab. So this was mostly teaching nursing students or just like freshman or sophomore, depending on what their major was. But yeah, so I would teach them how to do an experiment or how to perform something, and then they would do it, and I would basically just monitor the class, and I had to grade papers, grade essays, and things like that. So that is how my tuition was paid for. And then I graduated with my master's in December of 2016. And like I said, I was extremely burnt out. So my plan was just to chill. Like, I honestly thought I could, I was working at a doggy daycare at the time, in addition to teaching the class. So after graduating, I just continued working at the doggy daycare. I had been working there for several years already. And I figured I would just really focus on my blog, and I would eventually get to where I want to. And obviously that didn't end up happening during that time. And from 2016, all of 2017, I really struggled financially. And, I was trying to work on the blog, but I couldn't really focus on it, especially when I was struggling financially. And I had to start paying back student loans, which really stressed me out. And then I got a different job at the end of 2017, which was even worse. I was working front desk at an urgent care, which if you have ever worked in a hospital setting or any sort of doctor care, people are really mean, and they're coming in. It was an urgent care, so people were coming in sick and stuff like that. But I worked there, and again, I was just extremely stressed out. The money was a little bit better because my pay was better, but it was just I was upset that I was really overqualified for this position. Obviously, I had my master's degree, and I just could have been doing a lot more. So that's when I realized, okay, I need to make a change. I need to get a real career. I have this degree, I can use it. And a friend of mine from grad school and undergrad, he emailed me an opportunity at the company that I'm working at now. And I got this email in February, and I started my current job in April of 2018. So honestly, I had applied to various positions at this company before, and I don't mean several times, I mean dozens of times. So the position that I have isn't impossible, but the company that I work for is really difficult to get a position with. And it was really stressful trying to get a job there because that was one of the best places that I could work. It is one of the best places that I can work considering what degree I have and my experience. I was definitely qualified for all the positions that I was applying to. I didn't have, years and years of experience, but I was only like 23, 24 years old, so of course I don't. And, honestly, it is about who you know at the end of the day, so you have to have the qualifications, but knowing this person and that person putting good word in for me definitely helped me to get this position. So that's kind of the backstory of everything. I feel like that was super long, I'm sorry, but I did want to explain, like, if you are interested in becoming a scientist of any sort, you need to have experience, research experience, and it's best if you have like led your own project because that shows independence but also teamwork. I had a paper written and I knew people. So I knew this person who helped me get the job. So just for future reference, if you are trying to get a scientist position, that is really important. But I started this job in April of 2018 and I have my own project here as well. So basically, I don't want to like explain all the specifics of it, but I will show some clips of me doing some of my work. And basically, I work with bacteriophage. So bacteriophage is a virus that infects bacteria, and it's basically the next best thing to antibiotics. So antibiotic resistance is becoming a huge problem in society today. So bacteriophage is something that can be used in now and in the future. I believe that eventually we'll start getting more into phage therapy and getting away from antibiotics because we are going to become so resistant, or the bacteria are going to become so resistant, and there's going to be diseases and infections that can no longer be treated by these antibiotics, and a lot of us will be screwed. So I work with bacteriophage, and for my project, I am using these phage in urinary catheters. I'm going to try to explain this in like the simplest way, but basically I collect raw sewage, and we got this from a wastewater treatment plant, and I isolate bacteriophage from that raw sewage. I am able to isolate specific bacteriophage from the wastewater by inoculating it with a specific isolate. So I have these clinical isolates that are associated with catheter-associated urinary tract infections, which is the problem. Those are the bacteria that we are trying to treat, or that my project is trying to treat. So I have found a number of bacteriophage that are effective against staph epidermidis, E. coli, and Pseudomonas aeruginosa. My project is in collaboration with a university here, and they have more of the chemistry side of things. So what I'm doing with this phage is chemically tethering, or chemically attaching the bacteriophage to the inside of a catheter, a urinary catheter, and studying how it prevents or inhibits the growth of bacteria within it. So basically these bacteria are able to form a biofilm. Biofilm is basically a cluster or layer of cells that are able to secrete this extracellular matrix, and this matrix almost like protects them. When antibiotics are used to treat this biofilm, which can be made up of one or multiple types of bacterial species, then this wall protects them, and that's how they are resistant. The antibiotics are unable to penetrate that matrix, so the biofilm can continue to grow and then release free-floating cells and repeat the whole process over again. So with the bacteriophage, it has shown that you can prevent these biofilms or treat these biofilms, and that is just what I'm working on. I've only been here for about a year, as I said, but I'm really at the beginning stages of my project, so there's a lot still that I need to do and try and experiment with in regards to the phage against these bacteria in the catheter. But that's like the gist of it. I don't want to get too into the details of microbiology, but okay, so I have catheter pieces inside here. You can't really see them. But I cut them up and treated them with the chemicals that we use for the chemical tethering process. And now I'm going to use nitrogen gas to purge the reaction, basically to remove any moisture. Now this is gonna rock for an hour, so it's being treated with the chemical for an hour. Okay, so I have now added the phage. So the catheter pieces are inside of these wells, and then I added 1 ml of phage to each well. That's the control, and then these two have the tethered chemicals. So that is rocking for several hours. Just as a side note, bacteriophage are everywhere. They are not harmful to humans. They are often found in soil and ocean and other bodies of water. So they are safe to use, and they're nothing to be afraid of. You can't see them with the naked eye, obviously, and they are a virus, but they do not affect us in a negative way. As for my position, a typical day is I basically was able to choose my own schedule, which is amazing, and I moved closer to my job. I'm about 3 miles away. This is because for multiple reasons, but the commute was really long for me before and was making it really difficult just to live. So I moved closer, and it's made it a lot better. So I wake up typically around 5 or 5:30, and I get to work by about 7. I leave work typically around 3:15, 3:30, and then some days I have experiments that run a lot longer, and I've left as late as like 6 or close to 6. And those are only certain days. So like Mondays and Fridays are typically slower, and then the days in between are a lot busier. And that's just kind of how science works. My job is kind of slow, I would say. So there's some days where I'm in the lab the whole entire day and just like sampling the whole day, or I'm helping somebody else sample with their stuff, or doing the tethering treatment, and that takes like the whole day. But then there's a lot of waiting period. Even on those days in between, you have to, let things incubate or shake, or just sit for 3 hours or overnight. So there's a lot of waiting with any science, I would say. I do have an office. I share an office with 4 other people. It's fine with me. I don't mind it. My job is pretty ideal. Like I said, I work my own schedule. If I wanted to work later, that's just something I would have to share with my boss, and then I would make the proper adjustments. And as long as I'm getting my work done and spending enough time at work, then it's fine. I take a lunch break every day. I go on a walk every day around the campus. It's like a really nice campus that I can walk through, and yeah, it's a really good job. And my only complaint is that it can be slow sometimes, which I don't really love sitting at my office. I'd rather be in the lab, but there's only so much you can do on certain days. And plus you have to wait for things to grow. They have to, if you plate an organism, you can't use it that day because you have to let it incubate overnight to grow. With my position as a fellow, we get all the, major holidays off, the government holidays, get all of those off. I think there's 10 or 11 throughout the year, and then I'm allowed 10 days off, paid time off. But really it just depends. My boss is fairly flexible. If I take off more days, it's not a big deal. I definitely don't abuse that, but yeah, we just have to let him know what time or what days we won't be there. And I never call out sick. I've never done that and don't plan on it, just because that's not in my blood. But I definitely could if I absolutely needed to. I don't have to be at work at a specific time. I don't have to clock in or clock out. It's just kind of get your work done, and then honesty policy, I need to be at work. I can't just skip a week of work and not say anything about it. In regards to benefits, I don't get all the benefits as a permanent employee. So because I'm a fellow, I just get health insurance, which is great. It's really good health insurance, and I'm super grateful for that. But I don't have any sort of retirement plan or HSA savings account, anything like that, just health insurance. There's some limitations to what I can do with my income. I always talk about how my income isn't taxed. So that's probably the weirdest thing. So I have to pay quarterly taxes and then yeah, make an estimation of what I need to pay each quarter. So that can be a little bit weird and very different from what I'm used to. For my pay, my salary, I guess I'll say, I don't want to give like an exact, but it's I make roughly $60,000, and that is, you know, before taxes, before health insurance. So after taxes, maybe 50 or so. I'm honestly so grateful for that. I think that is a great pay. That's definitely the best pay I have ever received in my years working. And I do have my master's degree, so I think it does kind of work. Another pro to being a researcher is that you learn a lot. Like I have learned so much in the year or so that I've worked here. And, you know, it's pretty cool to say that I may be making a difference in the future for public health and in hospitals and things like that. So that is pretty cool. The stuff that I'm working on is like novel experiments. Like I am chemically tethering bacteriophage to a catheter, which is pretty amazing to say, and more rewarding, I guess. It's not that challenging of a job in my opinion. Like I can follow rules, so that is what an experiment is. To be a scientist though, you do have to be very persistent and very open to failure, which I think has helped me a lot in life in general, because experiments fail all the time, or they don't go as planned, and then you just have to repeat them over and over, and then plus you just have to repeat stuff anyway because you need replicates and things like that. So it can get very tedious in that way, but I wouldn't consider this job like super challenging. I've definitely learned a lot. You have to read a lot of papers and just do a lot of research on your own, just in general, of, you know, to gain the knowledge of everything you need to know. And then I've learned a lot. Like I've had other people teach me stuff, obviously, and got training on different lab equipment, on different procedures. And even though this isn't something I want to do forever, I genuinely appreciate this job, and I think this job is great and probably the best thing that I could ask for at this point in my life. So that's basically it. If you have any other specific questions about college or science or what I do, then please let me know down below. Sorry this video was super long. I just thought I would give more in-depth and more in-depth detail into how to get a position like this, or, you know, what to expect as a scientist. So I've had a few people ask me to make a video like this, so hopefully this kind of covers everything that I do. But it looks like my battery is dying anyway, so perfect timing. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.